Two rabbits worked together to open the universe pouch. Wei Wuxian took out several small paper figures with runes written on them, pressed his paws on them, focused his mind and breath, attempting to reincarnate his soul onto the paper figures. After a moment, he sighed. It doesn't work. This body truly has no spiritual power. The two stood silently on Wei Wuxian's belly for a while. Gurgle, gurgle. Lan Wangji looked down at his feet. Opposite him, Wei Wuxian glanced at his own belly, somewhat embarrassed, and said, "I'm hungry, not him." They hopped around the whole morning. The world of rabbits was very small. For them, Lotus Pier was almost like a mountain, running from here to there several times, although measured by human standards, it was a few steps back and forth. These two palm-sized little creatures had nearly exhausted the strength in their bodies. They left the house with Wei Wuxian leading Lan Wangji hastily toward the kitchen. In the kitchen, a small stove was simmering a jar of lotus root and pork rib soup. The fire had already gone out. On a small table beside the stove sat half a bowl of ribs not fully served, seemingly hurriedly put down. Presumably due to the earlier commotion, Zhan was drawn away and went with others to look for Wei Wuxian. Wei Wuxian hopped onto some small jars piled like little mountains on the floor, then vaulted onto the table. He leaned his head in to sniff the tender, fragrant ribs, took several deep sniffs, but the little whiskers on the sides of his mouth drooped. Lan Wangji also followed onto the table, and seeing this asked, "What's wrong?" Wei Wuxian looked at him and said, "I don't want to eat ribs." Although Lan Wangji hadn't stayed at Lotus Pier long, he had tasted Zhang Yanli's lotus root pork rib soup before, Wei Wuxian's favorite dish that Lan Wangji knew well. At this moment, for some unknown reason, Wei Wuxian suddenly lost his appetite for it. Wei Wuxian's stomach rumbled again, and Lan Wangji said, "Then, what do you want to eat?" Wei Wuxian opened his little mouth and said, "I want to eat grass." In the spacious grassland of the backyard, Wei Wuxian got to eat grass as he wished. He tilted his head toward the dirt, bit off a long blade of grass from the root, carried it in his mouth, and began eating it bit by bit. The fresh grass leaves chewed in his mouth were full of delicious grass juice and the fresh scent of earth. Wei Wuxian enjoyed eating it so much that in a moment he pulled another blade, about to start, when he noticed Lan Wangji staring at him motionlessly. Lan Wangji was probably the least rabbit-like rabbit in the world. All four legs on the ground, his spine still perfectly straight, ears standing with meticulous neatness, clearly just a small ball of fur, yet stood perfectly square and motionless, with only his pink nose twitching uncontrollably, showing he was a living rabbit, not a stuffed specimen. Lan Zhan. Wei Wuxian's little mouth mumbled with a mouthful of food, mumbling unclearly, "Won't you try? Grass is really tasty. I never realized grass could be so delicious in this life." Lan Wangji looked down at him lightly and calmly said, "I won't eat it, you go ahead." But just as he finished speaking, his stomach growled. Lan Wangji pursed his lips slightly. Wei Wuxian laughed. "What's there to be afraid of? You're a rabbit now. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Eating grass won't hurt. No one will laugh at you. Losing dignity is small. Starving to death is big. Hurry and fill your belly. Then you'll have strength to find a way to restore yourself with me later." There was some wisdom in that sentence. Lan Wangji's expression shifted slightly as he glanced at the fresh green grass by his feet. Wei Wuxian bit off a blade of grass and tossed it in front of him. Lan Wangji bent down to pick it up, and just as he was chewing a few bites, Wei Wuxian started rolling on the grass. He spat out grass bits from his mouth, waved his four paws in the air, and laughed out loud. "Lan Zhan, the way you eat grass." Lan Wangji was speechless. Wei Wuxian flipped over, slapped the ground with one paw, and shrugged as if watching a show. "You eat, Lan Zhan. Take a bite." Lan Wangji silently began chewing slowly. Meanwhile, Wei Wuxian kept rolling. "Lan Zhan, you should see yourself. The way you look." "Ha ha ha." Lan Wangji ate while Wei Wuxian watched, looked again, rolled some more, looked once more, rolled again, as if poisoned strangely. After finishing the grass, Lan Wangji licked his paw, pressed it to his mouth, and carefully cleaned. Wei Wuxian was less restrained. After eating, he grabbed flower petals on the grass and played, his mouth all green. Lan Wangji's paw pointed at his mouth. Wei Wuxian picked up a petal and wiped at his face carelessly, only to turn his whole face green. He simply ran to the pond, took a drink, and wiped his face while he was at it. After eating and drinking their fill, the two regained their strength. They ran all over Lotus Pier looking for a way, but found none. When they spoke to people, no one could hear them, and they had to be careful not to get caught and thrown back into the fence. By evening, the two of them, full of fatigue, returned to the patch of grass in the back garden. Under the flower bushes hid a group of rabbits that had slipped through the net, rolling around and playing noisily. As the sun set, Wei Wuxian, bored, pulled up some grass roots from the ground to play with. Before long, the stars appeared. Lan Zhan, what if we never turn back? What if we're rabbits forever? Lan Wangji's eyelids lowered in peaceful calm. Despite an afternoon of futile struggles, he showed no anxiety or blame toward Wei Wuxian. Sitting beside him, looking at those pale eyes, Wei Wuxian felt a gentle warmth grow inside. He looked up and admired the starlight above. Being a rabbit doesn't seem so bad, at least I have you with me. The words sounded a bit cheesy, and Wei Wuxian didn't glance sideways, only feeling the other's gaze lingering on him, unmoving, for a long time. But the next sentence blew away that faint romantic mood entirely. Wei Wuxian said, "The only pity is that jar of Emperor's smile." Lan Wangji glanced at him with a dry tone. "Is the only thing you miss the wine?" Wei Wuxian said, "Of course not. There's Senior Sister's lotus root and pork rib soup, Ah Su's tofu pudding, and Uncle Zhang flying kites. Uncle Zhang's kite flying skills are truly a feat. A few swift touches and the kite is done before you can see. And after cooking, mixing that dish into old Mrs. Zhang's dishes, and then having Zhang Cheng taste them. Stealing watermelons from old man Lu's melon field at the Lotus Pond end during a thunderstorm." Lan Wangji was startled for a moment. "Why during a thunderstorm?" Wei Wuxian explained, "His melons have super thin rinds, and when it thunders, the ripest ones crack open in the field, the tastiest ones. The flesh is juicy, tender, and melts in your mouth. Since the melons are broken, they can't be stored long. One thunderstorm cracks them all over the place. Old man Liu can't even eat them all. It'd be a waste, but he's stingy. Even when we help eat them, he chases us away. What's there to chase us for?" Lan Wangji shook his head, finding that kind of help ridiculous. Wei Wuxian continued, "Next time I'll take you to steal some and let you get chased away too. Also, taking a boat to the lake west of the city, mooring next to a painted boat, listening to the girls inside sing the 18 touches, and it doesn't cost a thing." Lan Wangji asked, "What's the 18 touches?" Wei Wuxian sang a few lines, and Lan Wangji shook his head even more vehemently. Lazily lying on the ground, Wei Wuxian asked, "What about you, Lan Zhan? What do you miss?" Lan Wangji thought a while and replied, "Writing, playing the guqin, and practicing swordsmanship." Wei Wuxian almost burst. "Those aren't things to miss." A gentle evening breeze blew, and Wei Wuxian shifted toward Lan Wangji. Lan Wangji stiffened slightly. His snowy white body moved as if this fluffy little ball might have some kung fu, and he quickly stepped aside, cautiously watching Wei Wuxian. Wei Wuxian shook his ears unhappily and said, "I am a little chilly. Let me lean on you a bit." "Why so tense? You won't have any loss." Lan Wangji was about to refuse when Wei Wuxian looked to his side, and Lan Wangji followed his gaze. Under the bushes, the rabbits had somehow paired up and huddled together. The two right before their eyes, one was lying on top of the other, their snowy white bodies overlapping. Without thinking, Wei Wuxian said, "They're so warm like that, Lan Zhan. Why don't we learn from them? If we pile up like this to sleep, we won't catch a cold even sleeping outside tonight." Lan Wangji's expression grew weird. Wei Wuxian let out a small and tilted his head to look at him. Lan Wangji avoided his gaze, and Wei Wuxian suddenly understood. The scene fell silent for a moment. He said, "I'm overthinking. This kind of activity isn't suited for us. Ha ha ha." Pausing, he added, "Besides, we don't even know if I'm male or female." Saying that, he flipped his belly, spread his legs indecently. Near the tail, a quick glance revealed two flesh-colored little balls. "Good thing I'm a male, haha." Lan Wangji slightly turned his gaze away. Just as Wei Wuxian flipped over, he felt a paw on his behind. His ears reddened, and without looking, he said, "Hey, Lan Zhan, even if we're rabbits, you can't mess around."